Yeah, this one has the animation. Okay. Okay, so this is gonna be the first, we're just gonna like start off with just playing this first video.
Okay.
And then we'll introduce ourselves after we play it.
So what I'm going to do is do audio. All right, is your podium ready?
Yeah, but we're just gonna, we'll play the
You
video
start with
first
the
and then
video.
do introductions. Yeah.
All right. Is Josh ready recording? You'll need to let him know that you guys are ready to go. All right. That one?
America's most advanced weather eye in the sky.
Where did we come from? The search for life in the universe.
We're going to launch for the first time on an interplanetary mission from the West Coast.
Pegasus is away.
We've got 3.5 weeks. We need to hit that precisely to get to the sun. Delta II is now flying out.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, that's the end of that, yeah. So now is ours at the,
Yeah, yep.
okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's called a quick look, highlights for the Congress, but
My name is
that's our
Pterri,
Saturn V.
And my name is Chris.
and we're with NASA's Launch Services Program. So we're gonna tell you a little bit about our program and what we do with NASA, and we're gonna talk about a mission, okay? And this mission went to Mars, or is going to Mars. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. So what is it that LSP does? Can you do next one? Keep clicking.
Oh, yeah. So what LSP does is the people that make rockets, and then there's people that make satellites. And we come together and we find the right rocket for that satellite where it needs to go in space. And we help them get their satellite ready and get it integrated and put into the rocket, and then so it's ready for liftoff.
So we have launch sites all over the U.S. Our main one is in Florida, Kennedy Space Center. Do you guys know where that is?
Yes.
Have you guys seen a launch before?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one of our major launch sites. You saw what?
20?
20? Oh my
I
gosh,
bet.
that's a lot. And then another one's in California. And then we have one that's in Quaj, which is a little further than Hawaii.
So we have a fleet of different rockets, and if you see up here on the screen, do you see this big one with like 3 big like boosters? That's called a Delta IV Heavy.
Right there on the right.
The blue one that has a bunch of little boosters around it, that's a Delta II. This one that's in the middle, is that
That's an Atlas V.
the Atlas V? And then the one up in the corner, that's a Falcon 9. And then the airplane, and it has a rocket underneath it. The rocket is called a Pegasus, and it's a smaller kind of rocket. So when a satellite comes to Kennedy Space Center, or it could come to Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, what they do is they move their satellite into this really big building, and you can kind of see it in the middle picture. And this is where they make sure it's all clean and ready to go into space, doesn't have any dust on it, and making like last minute updates that they have to do. And then they put it in what's called a fairing. And you can see the bottom picture, it's like two like clamshells, and it's the very top of the rocket, if you can see in that picture. So they put it in the middle and then close it up so it's protected during launch.
So now we're going to talk about one of our missions. This one launched on May 5th from California. And this one's called Insight. Has anybody heard of that before? You guys have? Okay, so this is actually one of our Mars missions. And it launched on an Atlas V. And it's going to go to Mars and land on November 26th.
Yeah, it's on its way right now. We have a little video to show you that just tells you just about Mars and a little bit about the mission. So it just takes 6 months for it to launch from here and then get to Mars. And then what it's doing is it's kind of studying the interior of Mars, like studying if it has Mars quakes or what the dirt is like and what the crust of that planet is like.
And this is what it looks like. So this is a picture of Insight landing on Mars.
At Earth.
And so that it hit the.
But at Mars, we've only just scratched the
And
surface.
we learned a lot about the
To learn how Mars
structure
formed,
of the surface.
we have to
This
study
is the
its
only
deep
successful
interior.
experiment
NASA's
on this
InSight lander
flight.
was designed to do just that, by taking the planet's vital signs,
We had a TV program 2
listening
days
for its
out.
pulse or seismic activity, including any Mars quakes,
So everybody's sort of relaxed.
taking its temperature to see how much heat is flowing out from deep inside, and checking its reflexes to see how much the planet wobbles as it whips around the sun.
This fellow I know was asleep.
These all provide clues to what the planet is really like inside. So what's inside Mars? InSight can help us find out by giving Mars its first thorough checkup since it formed 4.5 billion years ago. The more we learn, the better we'll understand all the rocky planets and the history of our solar system.
This is the dead command module. It's taken with a wide-angle lens on a movie camera. The sun just happened to be the right spot to shine through the windows.
How long is a year on Mars? The Earth zips around the sun at about 67,000 miles per hour, making a full revolution in about 365 days, 1 year on Earth. Mars is a little slower and farther from the...
Where Jack and I are working on.
So here are a couple of pictures of Mars, kind of what it looks like. The one, this one on the left, that was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. And that's when it was as close to the Earth as it had been in 50,000 years. And then the other picture, you can kind of see, can you see the white in it?
Yeah,
That-
that's kind of like Antarctica.
Yeah,
on Mars.
exactly. It shows like water ice clouds and polar ice, and you can see where there's like rocky areas, like we have mountains here on Earth.
Okay, so on the right, you can see where InSight is going to land in November. And then right underneath it, do you see the word curiosity? Do you guys know what curiosity is? What is it? Just yell it out.
Very curious.
Very curious, yes, but do you know what is named curiosity?
Wasn't it a rover that got sent?
Yes. So do you see the rover on the left-hand side? Have you guys ever taken a selfie before?
Yeah.
That's Curiosity's selfie on Mars. How
Yeah.
cool is that? Yeah, I wish I could take a selfie on Mars.
This is just another little picture that There's another rover called Opportunity, and it took this picture. It's just like a panoramic view of Mars. So now we want to watch another little video that talks about the InSight launch and what it took to get ready to go.
You have a question?
Have you found any aliens at Mars?
No.
I haven't. Maybe when you grow up, you can work for NASA and you'll find an alien.
NASA is about to attempt something they've never done before.
This is the first time we've had an interplanetary launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. The cool thing about this launch is that we've got such a capable rocket, the Atlas V, we don't have to launch from Florida.
So InSight is going to be the first time that we've had a spacecraft leave Earth's orbit, launching from California. We've actually done studies for it, even up to decades ago, but it just comes down to whether or not the mission had extra propellant left over and whether there was an operational reason to switch from an East Coast launch to West Coast. This is just the first time all of it came together.
What we're going to do is we're going to unload the spacecraft really, really carefully, and then we're going to drive it a couple of miles to the Astrotech facility where they have a clean room all set up for us. We've got about 2 months here. All we got to do is clean it up, test it out, put the fuel in the tanks, and bolt it on the rocket, and off we go to Mars.
It's unlike other missions that we've done to Mars. We have a number of orbiters, a number of landers that we've successfully explored this amazing planet. But this actually is the first mission where we're really looking on the inside, the inner space of Mars.
Sending a science mission to Mars is not easy. Landing a probe on the surface is even harder. InSight's compact and incredibly efficient design makes sure it gets there and touches down safely.
So the crew stage itself is the critical component that actually gets us to Mars. There's an aeroshell that absorbs the heat as we re-enter the atmosphere. That aeroshell enables us to go through the atmosphere of Mars successfully without getting the inside, the lander itself, too hot. We deploy a parachute. That parachute does two things. It really ensures the stability of the aeroshell as it's starting to get closer to the surface. It also slows down the spacecraft further until finally we drop out of the combination back shell and parachute, and then we do a propulsive descent down to the surface.
Pterri Protection is what we do to responsibly explore other planets and moons in our solar system. In order to do that, we need to make sure that we send a clean spacecraft there. So we would hate to get to another planet or moon and think we discovered life, but it was actually something that we brought with us. So we collect our samples on InSight, any part of InSight that's going to land on the surface of Mars. We bring it back to our lab and we process it using a NASA procedure. If we run into a situation where we take a sample and it comes back as having a higher number of bacteria than what we want, then we make sure that engineers go back and clean those surfaces, with the whole idea that eventually with missions that have life detection capabilities, we don't want to cloud our ability to potentially find life on another planet or moons.
The work being done now here at Astrotech is critical to ensure InSight's safe arrival and landing on the Red Planet. It has to be perfect before it leaves Earth on a 6-month journey to Mars. As soon as the spacecraft is fueled and tested, InSight will be encapsulated and sent to the launch pad to be mated with the Atlas V, patiently awaiting T0.
So that was pretty cool, wasn't it? Pretty cool video. And it showed, you know, how they bring it, the spacecraft into a building and make sure it's all clean so that when they go to Mars, there's not any like human kind of germs or anything on there. Like when you said, is there life on Mars? If we accidentally, you know, left some dirt on there and then we took it up there and then got a sample, then we would think, oh, maybe there's life, but really it was, yeah. So that's why you have to be super clean with your spacecraft. So up here, I just have a few things to help you learn a little bit about Mars. And one thing I thought was really good if you learned about it is, so if you think of the sun as a typical size of a front door, so if we look at any of these doors, like if that's the size of the sun, then the Earth would be the size of a dime. So that's pretty small compared to the sun, right? And then the Mars would be then as big as like a little aspirin, so that's even smaller than a dime. So that kind of shows you the difference between the two planets and the sun. Do you have a question?
How big would Jupiter be?
Jupiter would be probably kind of in the middle of that. So another kind of fact about Mars is that, so one day on Mars is just a little bit over 24 hours. And then the Mars makes a complete orbit around the sun in 387 Earth days. Does anyone know how many days it takes to go around the sun on the Earth?
365.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Another couple of, that has a double moon. Like we only have one moon, Mars has a double moon, and there's no rings around it. That right now we know that on the surface it cannot support life as we know it, but you know, with our rovers and our landers, we are trying to figure out if there's potential for life. And this picture down here in the bottom, that's from a rover called Spirit. And that's a picture of the sun setting on Mars. Do you have a question? The moons, its name is Phobos, if I'm saying that right, and Deimos.
So that's all we have to talk about on Insight. And next time we come, we're going to talk about OSIRIS-REx, which is going to an asteroid. Yeah?
What was it? Is Mars kind of like Earth because it has kind of like river paths, like?
Kind of in that way, like the picture that we showed you could see like ice clouds and kind of like the North Pole, and they have mountains, things like that, but it doesn't have the same, and they think that maybe there could have been water there, maybe see signs of that.
Like some life a long time ago?
Yeah, maybe.
I think like the sun came too close to it and it killed all life because it's too hot.
Yeah.
That's a good theory.
So next time that we come, we're going to talk about this mission that launched a couple years ago called OSIRIS-REx. So I think you guys will be excited about it. It's kind of cool.
What's your question?
What? I know how the other moons have names, but does ours have a name like Mars?
Well, I think we just call it the moon. I don't know if I don't think that there's any other name for it. But I hope you guys have learned a lot about Mars and gotten excited about rockets, because actually we're going to help you guys build some rockets. Are you excited about that? Does that sound like fun?
Yes.
Okay, but we're going to do that back over in the rec center. So we're going to see you guys over there. So thank you so much for being such a great audience and listening and asking really great questions. Do you have another one?
Isn't Mars not warm, like it's cold?
No, I think it's more warm, but it might have some cold areas, kind of like how.
Because it has like all that ice on the bottom.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Okay, boys and girls, go and give them a hand. Okay, stay seated for just 1 second. We're going to go back over to the rec center, and they have an awesome craft for us to do building rockets. They already spilled the beans, so.
Sorry.